So you guys know me, I take the KLX where it probably shouldn't go, places where dirt bikes are only supposed to be able to travel. So you guys know that I think the KLX is a pretty capable bike, but after last video, I was in the mood and I figured I'd make the video then. Things that I think could be improved on the KLX. And of course, you guys know me, I'm a pretty big KLX guy, so keep that in mind. Like I said, after the trip to Diamond Mill, I was feeling a little bit harsh on the KLX, but now onto the video. Man. Alright, out on the trails on the KLX300. And today, you know what? I'm feeling a little bit harsh on this thing. Everything here seems so easy now compared to what we just went through on the 300. If you guys saw last video at Diamond Mill, so today is going to be a harsh review on the KLX300. Taking it to Diamond Mill on some of the gnarliest trails in Oregon here. Kind of showed me some of its weaknesses, and I want to talk about those in today's video. Don't get me wrong, great bike, but some things do need to be improved. So, first things first, this isn't really the KLX's fault, but it's definitely tires. This thing needs a new set of tires. In order for this bike to be phenomenal off-road, it obviously needs new tires. Now, I'm not going to dwell on that because it's not really part of the bike, but on single track, where you have to be very, very disciplined with your tire placement. It needs new tires. See, what did I tell you guys? Everything seems so easy compared to where we were just at in Diamond Mill. Now, tires, done talking about that. Now, suspension, right there. Usually I don't hit those bumps with that much speed, but like I said, coming fresh from some of the most difficult terrain KLX has seen, I was feeling confident. And suspension, this is my brother's bike. I'm about 200, 195 actually. I've been shredding down, but wasn't super controlled through there, kind of bouncing around. I've said this before. Hey.
How you doing?
Pretty good, and you?
Good. What kind of bike is that?
TR250. 02.
02?
Yeah.
No, dude, I build motors. My son had a 91, and the mother damn deal down here on the side case here. What are you riding?
KLX300.
A what?
A KLX300. 4.
Oh, he's got a tractor bike.
Uh-huh.
Alright, Dad, you're fucked up. We're taking you back.
Yeah, I'm a 2-stroke guy.
Uh-huh.
So,
Well, KLX getting pooped on again because it's not a real dirt bike. But as I was saying, suspension on the KLX here doesn't settle as nicely as I like to. I could turn up the rebound for my bike. I did that on my KLX. But again, just doesn't settle as smoothly as I would like, which at times can create a little bit of a wild ride. And rip the berm. So over jumps, the suspension is a bit soft. I will say this bike flies really flat compared to my KX. You don't need to do as much in order for it to fly flat. You just roll up to it, steady on the throttle, and it flies flat. I'll have my friend take a video here to show you that. So last note on the suspension. I know I give the KLX a hard time on the suspension, but like I said, I'm feeling harsh on the KLX today. I've said this many times in my off-road videos. It just doesn't settle quick enough, and successive bumps will kind of throw you off. Like I said, you throw some gold valves, springs from Race Tech in here, and you'll be golden. Stock bike is a little bit sketchy over successive bumps. So next up on the list is gearing. Again, it's not totally the bike's fault. It would benefit from some better gearing. Now what I'm going to talk about here with the gearing is not having to slip the clutch necessarily. It's the fact that coming out of corners, if you come in a gear too high, on the KX or my KLX300, you just throttle down, dump the clutch, and it'll pull out of corners. With the KLX, you come into a corner a gear high here, and you try and dump the clutch, and it really doesn't want to pick up. Here, see right there, you need a downshift in order to get it to punch out of corners. Part of that's power, part of that's gearing. gear low. So that brings me to my next point. You need to keep the revs up. Keeping the revs up will allow you to punch out of corners a lot harder. This bike has a great mid-range, so use it. Keep the revs up right around probably 5,000 to 6,000 RPM, and it'll treat you nicely. Man, I tell you what, when the KLX gets that 450 motor, it's gonna kill it out here. Once that bike is fully set up with the vision I have for it, oh man, is it gonna be a riot. So last thing I'm gonna talk about, a lot of people complain about this on the KLX. It is heavier than a dirt bike. 300 pounds, yes. Everyone says they need to knock that thing under 300 pounds, which I agree with. Now, I'm not going to say this is a super heavy bike. As you guys have been seeing throughout this video, super flickable. Changes lines real nicely. It carries the weight low, which is nice for these trails. But what I will say about the weight is that yes, you can shed some pounds. Not a super big deal. But the way the frame is on this bike and the suspension when there's a rider on it, the bike gets real wide down low when you're trying to squeeze through some obstacles. That's because compared to something like my friend's CR or my KX, those bikes are a lot skinnier down low than this bike is. For quad track like this, might not be an issue, but if you get into some rutted out single track, then it may be kind of hard to squeeze through some of them. Now again, like I said, kind of harsh on this bike. But as you saw there, we kind of took some whoops. It did fine. It's just you could feel how slow the bike was responding. Kind of flex my abs like, oh man, is the suspension gonna soak it up? Or am I gonna be using a lot of my leg muscles? Now to finish off this harsh review of the KLX off-road, we're gonna do some single track, and I'll show you guys where it may come a little short. So now, this single track, you have to be very precise on your tire placement. Like I said, with these tires, it's real tough to get them to track straight. Now here's something that we would not make it through on the KLX because of where it carries its girth. Not necessarily the weight, but the width of the bike. See, the CR fits through there. Way easier than before.
Way easier, yeah.
But we tried this with the KLX last time. We couldn't get through because the KLX is too wide.
Yeah.
Mainly because it sits lower with a rider on it compared to something like the CR.
Yeah.
So if you can get the suspension on here to ride higher, so some springs and then the shock in the rear too, effectively it'll give you more ground clearance and place the pegs up higher, so that way maybe you can squeeze through some of these things.
But you would also have a higher center of gravity.
Higher center of gravity, you'll notice the weight more, but like I said before, you can knock 20 pounds off of this pretty easily. And like I said, the weight isn't really carried up high on this bike, it's down low, so there'd be a little bit of a trade-off. Now we get over this log. One thing I did say when we were at Diamond Mill is that the steering on the KLX here is kind of twitchy. And it looks like I gotta buy my brother's tail tidy. Definitely now. Looks like I'm going straight home to go buy him that. Did it look cool?
Oh, hell yeah.
Because it didn't feel cool.
It looks badass.
Oh, it's broken. My brother's definitely watching this, and I am quite sorry about your taillight. I guess I should be nice and not litter and clean this up. Ah, man. So, yeah, I've been harsh on the KLX. It's definitely light enough to do that. So now here's where I had trouble one time here, going up this hill, because the front end didn't hold the line. Looks like we were good today. I know this is supposed to be a harsh review, but the one thing I will say that is nice about plush suspension on single track like this is that when you go over the logs, the bike soaks it up for the most part. Whoa, there's a whole squad of deer up there. Jeez, that scared me. Alright, one last test, the log test. Woo! Woo! Man.
There goes your tail light.
I didn't get enough of them. Dang it, I stalled though.
That's what happened to me.
Right?
Yeah.
So there you guys have it, a harsh review of the KLX300 off-road. As you can see, we kept a pretty good pace throughout all the trails. It's just there are a few shortcomings with the bike that I like to talk about, but at the end of the day, you know me, I'm a KLX guy. Lots of fun, but I figured I'd make a video because I was feeling harsh on the bike, especially after Diamond Mill, all that intense single track and whatnot. But if you enjoyed the video, be sure to give it a big thumbs up, share it to your friends and those who may enjoy it or find it useful, and of course if you're not subscribed, go down there, hit that subscribe button, get the bell on to keep up with all the action. If you're into motorsports, you're in the right place. But with all that being said, join the club, and I'll see you in the next one.